You're welcome. This is State of Affairs. Tonight we are talking about the May 9 stadium disaster. It's been 16 years. And the question is, what has changed at our various stadiums, especially at the Accra Sports Stadium? Remember, there's been a directive to shut it down in June for construction works to take place, or rehabilitation they want to put it. Tonight I'm talking to two journalists. One, a sports journalist. The other is interested in special reports. But today he spent his time interacting with victims of the May 9 disaster 16 years ago, and also had a word with the sports minister. You're both welcome to the studio. Dennis Mepuri, the sports journalist with EIB, and Armstrong Joseph Gold Alagbe of our newsroom here. I want to start with you because you were out at the stadium today. There was a ceremony there. Can you tell us exactly how it panned out? Was it a solemn one? Was it a time to remember? Were people upset that till date they have not been compensated properly?
Well, thank you very much. So what happened there today was the ceremony was not anything, you wouldn't see people crying or people in a very solemn mood, but they just came drumming, and it's the usual thing they've been doing since 16 years now. Well, it looks like people have been well compensated.
They have been? They have been,
because I spoke with some of the wives of the victims who lost their lives, and well, they told me that they've been well compensated, especially their children, the children they left behind. But they, the parents, they, the mothers, have been left out. And then one...
What do they mean? So it means that the children are being catered for, as long as their school fees, clothing, shelter, and all of that is concerned.
Yeah, exactly. So what they are saying is that their children are being catered for, but they, the mothers, have been left out. So they were calling on the Board of Trustees that is responsible for taking care of the victims that lost their lives. They were calling on them to at least involve the mothers, because, of course, if their husbands happens to be alive, they would have probably made better living than as they are experiencing now.
Okay. Now, I'll come to you to talk more about the ceremony itself and also what the minister said to you. But Dennis, I mean, you're a sports journalist. You've been following this for 16 years. On the 16th anniversary, what is so different for you?
Nothing has changed, really. We saw the reconstruction of the Accra and Kumasi Stadia for the hosting of the CAN 2008, and a few changes were made, borrowed from the recommendations from the Okujeto Commission disaster report, which, former President Kufuor released a white paper on. A few of those changes to the new stadia that we see, or the reconstructed stadia, is that the exit gates and the stairways are now not 6, they are more than 6. Per the original plan of the former Accra Sports Stadium, and when I say former, before the reconstruction, the stairways were 6 instead of 8, per the original plan, which was suicidal. Now, at the end of those gates, it looked like a cage, and with frail metallic structures. So if there's a stampede of some sort in that area, you would have people crashing against each other, and that's why people actually died of trauma and asphyxia, where their chests actually crashed against each other and could not breathe properly. Okay, so they also had tear gas to contend with, which they had inhaled for some period before getting into that cage, just to try and describe exactly what happened. So if you look at that, the change is that we've got wider exits, more stairways to consider. But I don't think much has changed, because we still don't have stadium clinics. We still don't have the stewards that Okujeto report suggested or recommended. We don't have those. We have few safety officials, and I'm even going back to this issue of stewards, because just yesterday when I prepared a report on the Hearts of Oak Wafa match, which ended in favor of Hearts of Oak, by the way.
Sadly.
Yes, because you're an Olympics fan. I saw football fans smoking. I don't know what they were smoking.
I actually saw that as
well.
Good.
They were smoking in the stands. All right? But if there was a steward or a few stewards in the stadium, maybe 2 per stand at least for starters, all right, or 1 per stand, it may not have happened, because some communication would have gone on from the top to the safety officials down there that something untoward is going on here. So please, we will need a backup, because the steward, let's face it, cannot arrest the situation himself. the fans will outnumber him. But there will be some form of correspondence to arrest the situation. What if they were smoking marijuana, which would, influence a certain, kind of behavior, untoward behavior in the stands? Don't forget that the fans, in disagreement with an officiating decision on the fateful day, May 9th, Wednesday, 2001, ripped off seats through bottles. Okay, so they were venting. Now, sometimes what you take in, okay, or what you consume in the stands could also affect or influence your
That's a very important point you raised there, because I saw the pictures and I saw the young men smoking in the stadium, and I was wondering...
Wasn't just one person?
Yes, several of them. I was wondering exactly what was going on there.
I was lost too.
I'm sure you were. But for the minister today, I mean, he has issued a directive that the stadium should be closed down somewhere in June. For rehabilitation to take place. But of course, as a nation, we've sat down to see the sports stadium rot by the day. What exactly did he say about security at the stadium?
Well, according to him, since that disaster occurred, they've done so much. As Dennis mentioned earlier on, they've increased the number of gates in there, and then they've also ensured that they have ambulances to be carrying people to and fro. And then, well, they've ensured that...
He didn't touch on the absence of clinics.
No, he didn't speak about that. The minister did not mention that, but he's saying that, well, he just assumed office and he's going to ensure that all these things, he has been touring all these states around, and then he has seen for himself what they need, this country needs as a nation to ensure that we have our stadia being made up of good place for people to go and then have good security. So, well, he did say that he's going to ensure that every single thing that he has been told, from the chief directors to the technical directors, he's going to make sure that he implements all those things. But there was
no mention of the Okujeto recommendation.
Yeah, he did mention that, and he said he's going to make sure he go by the recommendation given by the Okujeto
Let's
report.
listen to the man himself and what he had to say about the recommendations his committee made.
If a committee or commission was charged with the responsibility of not only investigating why the event happened, but what remedies there are that can guide for the future. And those recommendations have been accepted. And indeed, people should not even forget that before we went and completed our work, we actually went to England and inspected several other sports stadiums over there, spoke to people who are involved in safety and security before we made the recommendations that we made. So I think it's a challenge, and I will ask those who are involved in the design of the stadia to go back to the drawing board and look carefully at the recommendations that we have made and ensure that they are incorporated.
Okay, Dennis, I'll come straight to you. The comments from Mr. Okujeto there.
Well, I spoke to him, and I remember he mentioned also the fact that we need to start working on first aid. First aid should be incorporated in the syllabus of or the program of all students, schools. So we need to look at that, because in Europe, in America, it's happening, so that wherever you find yourself, you can. And I remember Armstrong today spoke to one of the survivors at the May 9th stadium disaster this morning on GH Today, where he mentioned that he was attending to some of the fans who had collapsed. Now the question is, did he have any proper training, with first aid? But if we make it compulsory in our schools, then all and sundry, the general public, wherever they find themselves, can begin to administer proper health care in the form of first aid before these people who are ailing are rushed to the appropriate health centers. Not to talk about the work that government has actually promised to do on the stadia, plus the new stadia that will be built, the 5 that they have proposed. And I don't want Ghanaians to forget, because it was a manifesto promise. It was catered for, I believe, in the budget. And the proper thing has to be done. When I say proper thing underlined, inverted commas, I'm talking about the use of the Okujeto Commission's 64 recommendations, to guide the construction of these facilities. If you watch that clip closely of Okujeto's, lawyer Sam Okujeto's interview, you'd realize that there was a shot of a bushy stadium That happens to be the Legon, University of Ghana Legon University Stadium, that will be used to host the 2018 Ghana Women's AFCON.
Will it be ready?
It will be here.
Will it be ready?
Government says it's going to be ready. I'll hold them by their word. The question is, do we have a clinic over there? Do we have we paid close attention to incorporating recommendations from Okudzeto's commission report? We need to take a look at that.
Okay.
It's not just about putting an edifice up, but doing the proper due diligence, doing the proper thing so that fans can feel safe when they come to patronize the local game, which we say they have actually abandoned.
All right. Now, I have to come back to you now, Armstrong. You talk about the wives of the victims who feel rather abandoned by the nation. Did the minister touch on the plight of the surviving families?
Well, the minister did not speak about them, but then there is a committee set up to make sure these people are catered for. I spoke to the general secretary, the general secretary of that committee, and then he's called Christopher Annan, and then he said to me that, well, the women are not in the budget for those who are supposed to be catered for, but then their children are those they are focusing on. Besides, the money that they are receiving is not enough. Okay, they are getting the money from the Bank of Ghana, and it's not enough. So for them to extend that help to the mothers of the victims who lost their lives is impossible.
Okay, Dennis.
Well, listening to that actually saddens me. You see, it tells me one thing, how Ghanaians are actually very forgetful. When I spoke on the Okudzeto Commission report, I mentioned there were 64 recommendations. Sometimes when you forget, go back and read. It helps. You're not a repository of wisdom or knowledge. So I did my checks and I realized that, you know what, Nanaba, the Okudzeto Commission report did direct that we should play matches on May 9th, okay, or a few days before May 9th, to raise funds for the disaster fund.
Okay.
For the chairman then was the late Obeche Bilamte. May he so rest in peace. Because he's dead, everything is gone haywire, right? Systems are not working because one man is gone.
Okay.
One man who coordinated it is gone.
Let me hold you there for a second and talk to the Deputy Sports Minister, Pius Hajide. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sure you've been listening to my two gentlemen here. We all saw the ceremony that took place at the Accra Sports Stadium today. Well done to the Sports Ministry for putting that together. But most importantly, are the surviving families of the victims of the May 9 disaster. What exactly is the Sports Ministry doing for those who claim that till date they've really not been catered for by the state? They feel abandoned.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening to you and good evening to our cherished viewers. You would recall from the minister's presentation today at the event that for the first time, we are told, we insisted that beneficiaries of the disaster fund were brought to the event by the Board of Trustees. And today, some of the beneficiary children of the disaster fund were at the program. There was an MPhil student from the University of Ghana. There are other students, university students. There were some secondary school students. And today, at today's event, a member of the Board of Trustees was made to account for their stewardship, at which opportunity he spoke about the number of students in universities, the number of students in the polytechnics, the number of students in secondary school, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, I don't have the details in front of me. If I knew about the interview, I would have read and I would have given you the fuller details. But the minister has directed subsequently that we be furnished with a full list of all the victims of the main disaster and what has been happening to them over the years. We, at the Ministry of Youth and Sports, intend to organize an interaction between the beneficiaries, these families and their representatives, and all that. We intend to organize an interaction with them to see how we can also proceed with any support schemes that we may also think about. But at the end of the day, the point was made today quite strongly by the minister that the government and the people of Ghana are still behind the affected families, and that we shall play our decent part in ensuring that especially the children of the faithful departed shall be taken care of, and that primarily we are focused on ensuring that they acquire the necessary and needed education for themselves, so they can be able to cater for themselves and their families.
All right, Pius, I'm here with one sports journalist. I'll just give him the opportunity to ask you one question before we let you go. Dennis Mepuri.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable. I want to find out from you quickly, there was supposed to be a commemoration march for the May 9 stadium disaster per the report of the Okujeto Commission. I don't know if you're aware of this, maybe you haven't seen the report, but that's what's supposed to happen, to raise funds for the disaster fund, which you would then disperse to the survivors or the families of the, the deceased. So I don't know what the ministry thinks about that march and whether it's going to happen from next year on, why it hasn't happened, in the past.
Well, then that's a good suggestion that was made by the committee. There was a white paper that was issued after, these are only recommendations to government. Government's position is expressed in its white paper. I think that what you have suggested is worth looking at, but we must also bear in mind the calendar of the various teams. It's the league season. Not too long ago, Kotoko and Hearts were in a match. I think on the 1st of May, they played a friendly match in Transport Stadium. I think a couple of days back, I think on Monday, Accra Hearts of Hope was again in another game. So you need to get into discussions with the managers of maybe our local league, the Ghana Football Association, the clubs themselves, to make this happen. It is something that is worth looking at. But there are other creative avenues that we have to look at as far as finding money for the fund, the disaster fund is concerned. But I do agree with you that this is a suggestion that is worth looking at, and maybe we should also look at it and work with the clubs and the football governing bodies to see how we can let this happen.
All right, thank you very much, Pius Hajide.
Everybody drink our coffee, smile and have a sunshine day. Everybody do what you're doing, smile and have a sunshine day. Everybody do what you're doing, your smile will bring a sunshine day.
Drink up
the celebration, we're together, join your hands in harmony. Everybody, do what you're doing. Smile and have a sunshine day.
Everybody, start every day with delicious, nutritious Cowbell coffee and have a sunshine day.
Everybody, drink our coffee. Smile and have a sunshine day.
Media sampa baby maka ensio to na se show bottom na de na mu a uni how enye hwe high sense king come battery check ne one day afe na ne bo da form tutumi ka ko high sense showroom bia na kwajo king come 1 2 or 3 madam high sense matete so mo say who afa frey 0302 550000. High sense, everyday prizes for everyday people.
Enough. Abba. Plenty medical bills. I have tried different methods and it hasn't prevented sin. My son has been in the hospital twice this year because of malaria. I haven't had a good night's sleep in years. But now no more. Since I painted with Ines Fly insecticide paint. Copy.
Innesfly insecticide paint kills mosquitoes dead for up to 2 years. It is a quality paint, a healthier option, and it's totally safe for humans and pets.
Take my word for it. Paint malaria out. Use Untitled insecticide paint now.
Innesfly for a pest-free life.
Hello there, and you're most welcome to television's best experience.
Welcome to your life. There's no turning back.
This is beautiful.
Even while we sleep.
I really want you to come go with me on this exciting journey.
Say how they come, that bar. When they say how they go, that bar.
This is the beast. This is the Rolls Royce Phantom.
That bar. When they see me out of town, that bar. When they see me for my hood,
It's fun, it's insightful, it's exclusive. This is Revealed. My name is Bolare, and this is my show.
Catch Revealed this and every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. with a repeat on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Revealed with Bolare, proudly brought to you by Bel Air Rare Lux, Legend Group, and Unibank, caring for you.
Golo, up, Golo.
Five regions, 5 marshals, over 40 destinations.
Anything can happen. Close the swamp and the crocodiles.
The thrills, the adventure.
Get inside and you never come back.
10 intriguing stories with the Sky Marshals. Showing this and every Saturday at 2:30 p.m. on GH1 TV.
Yeah, welcome back to State of Affairs, brought to you by Cowbell Coffee. Now, before I continue my conversation with Dennis and Armstrong here with me in the studio, let's quickly talk to Vida Entry. She's a wife of one of the victims, and you remember Armstrong was talking about how some of the wives feel abandoned by the state. And so let's talk to her. She will be speaking. Thank you for joining us, Vida. Vida, matese mo eyiremono. Asa muni njipi se mukunumu aka baby na ye hwe omane hwe moma but mo de mu nya hwe dem pa dem poten e na mo pese omane no eye mamo eno na aye wa dwendwen sisia because obi eni ho obetua eno. Okay. Now, we said more association dia mo belong to na ye bedi May 9 ye be kai kai new me see May 9 say ya mo back together and mo dwindwin mo life ho into mo meeting sana why na ya mo yes complaint no e kire mo
me I am na your hotel na bi I am continue banana no ko dia.
Okay. Now we ban call last meeting. Then obeka cho or catch say obi etum mponso obetua fees no. Then e catch no.
No, see na maybe because then I say you school na na so the law. And I know say about one. Yes, na about one na law.
Okay. But that's the point Vida entry said, Anadri Uniye Edin Komo. All right, so Vida is a wife of a deceased fan, and she says that, well, responsibly, we've been able to take care of her child. The state has been able to cater for her child. She's out of senior high school. She needs to go to university now. Now, that's her burden at the moment because she has no idea who is going to foot that bill for the university education. It just goes back to the point Armstrong raised earlier about the wives of the victims, of the surviving families, and what life has been for them. I'm sure in the past you had encountered some of them. The narrative doesn't change, does it?
It doesn't change, and that brings me back to the point of the creating, coming up more creative ways of raising funds to support these victims or the relatives of these victims, because for instance, the state can only do so much, and on this occasion I want to applaud the state and its systems over the last 16 years, at least pushing some of these victim, the family or the relatives of these victims this far. At least they've done something. But if we could actually raise more funds using more creative ways, like the game I spoke about. If we can do that once a year.
The game you talk about, would it attract a lot of people to the stadium? I know,
if you play,
Kotoko and Hearts.
The directive was to play a game between these same teams, Kotoko and Hearts. They are supposed to rally the support of their fans, and then the money goes to the fund. Okay, so if we have a lot of money in that fund, it only means that we can begin to support some of the relatives.
Okay, but the last game between Hearts and Kotoko for the 60th anniversary, what was patronage like?
Patronage was very impressive compared to some of the Ghana Premier League matches, I should say. Because, look, you know what? People were expecting to see what would happen after the Samosuka, incident where he adjudged the ball to have hit the hand of Ahmed Adams, the Kotoko defender, when many thought it wasn't so. The GFA ruled that there was nothing wrong with that decision. It was a penalty. So for Kotoko, they wanted to make a statement. So, relatives of these victims, and not also forget to mention that when you monitor social media today, all the influential people I know, Asamoah Gyan, Andrea, everyone is talking about never again, never again.
So they should donate to the fund.
That's a start. That's one. Two, it's not just about re-echoing never again as a hashtag. That's not enough. Never again, what have we done? What are the steps?
Yes, I'll come to Armstrong in a bit, but we are talking about what has changed since then. Let's talk about security, police. What has changed?
16 years ago, I remember 6 police officers were charged with manslaughter. The court, upon all the sittings, decided that they should be released, because the fans who died did not die as a result of the inhaling tear gas, but they actually died of asphyxia, which is the cramping of their the lungs, so they couldn't breathe. Well, I think that responsible policing then comes up, like you talked about. Have we done enough with security? No. Where are the stewards as directed by the Okujeto Commission report? We don't have them. Do we have the security staff well oriented as to how to control crowd who are misbehaving? You talk to the Ghana Police Service and they come up with all sorts of excuses. When you train police officers, one of the expectations is that they must be oriented on on crowd control, because when you have them at the stadium, that's what they will be doing when the fans are misbehaving. You don't beg the fans, you control the crowd. In most cases, the police officers or the security personnel, be it from the national security, or from the Ghana Police Service, do beg the fans, and they actually mix with the fans. They are watching the games. If you want footage, I'll bring you footage next week.
Right.
I mean, it's a very serious thing. So if you ask me what has changed, I think that we've actually done poorly 16 years down the line with security.
So the police personnel have been watching the games?
They've been watching the games.
Okay, but you watch games in other jurisdictions.
No, and they chat with me. Please, who is this?
They have their backs turned to the pitch.
That's right.
They are not interested in the game. Anyway, for you, I'm sure this is not something you can readily answer, but you're a fan. Yeah. Hopefully you don't support Hasselhoff.
I don't even support
Oh, what a shame. You don't?
No.
Okay. That's better than supporting Hearts of Kotoko. That's fine. Let's talk about fan behavior. You were out today chatting with a lot of the fans and the surviving families as well. What did they have to tell you about behavior at the stadium?
Well, I spoke with one of the National Supporters Union groups, and then their leader told me that nothing has changed so far. It looks like it's going from bad to worse, because just last week, they recall what happened, where some people were even trying to throw stones and water bottles at each other.
I saw that at the stadium when Kotoko played in the league game at the Accra Sports Stadium in Kotoko House. And after the game, there were fans throwing sachet water and bottles
because of Samuel Suka's decision to award the penalty.
Exactly, and I thought that was so irresponsible.
No matter how wrong the decision of the match official is, you, the fan, must be responsible. You have to be disciplined. You have no right to throw stones or any object at the match official or onto the pitch. That's irresponsible, and that is indiscipline.
Very well. The question is, so these fans come misbehaving themselves. How many police officers do you have on at the stadium? How many police officers? We have like 10 or something, and we have like 20 fans misbehaving themselves. I'm sure these police officers we are talking about don't even have a car on standby for them to pick up these people and send to where a place they'll send them to. So, I mean, talking about security, I think that not enough has been done. So, the supporters are not willing to change anytime soon, and it looks like you're also not prepared to bring in more police officers to
but I mean, if you give supporters the chance, they will never change.
But
because this is the team they love, and they're willing to do anything for that.
And I remember that there was this game I attended. It was a Hearts Kotoko game. It wasn't this season. It was last season, I remember. All the terrace, the upper terrace, the entry points had national security personnel. Okay, you are not allowed to take certain foreign material in there. If they do a thorough search per match day, okay, we won't have cigarettes or weed in the stands with these fans. If they are smoking in the stands, it's a problem for me, because you know what, you are encouraging families to bring their children, come out and watch football, patronize the Ghana Premier League, patronize the Ghanaian game at the Accra Sports Stadium or any other national stadium. But ask yourself if the congenial atmosphere has been created for such outings. I don't think so. So we have indisciplined fans patronizing the games. Security personnel have gone aloof. They don't even inspect what materials or objects are being sent into the stands.
Okay.
There must be checks. Thorough checks must be made.
Now, I saw you earlier speaking to, I don't know his name. He's got a funny name. He's one of the lead supporters.
Yeah.
Is it Insu? The national supporter.
He's actually with Chapter O. He spoke to him this morning.
Okay, what's his name again? He has a very funny name.
Apiritu.
Apiritu, something of that sort. Yeah, but what did he say? He says that nothing has changed. But as a leader of a fan base, what has he done with his supporters to change the conversation?
Well, it looks like, so far as to support a team, when the heat comes up, you don't really care what happens again. So at that moment, he's unable to control his people because, well, they are all drumming and then chanting. They want their team to win. So the moment their opponent goes against anything, they don't care what they do. They do what they do to make sure their team wins. They don't care whether they have to fight to ensure that the referee who is officiating the match do the right thing. So their issue is let the referee who is in charge of the game do the right thing, and then they also do the right thing.
Okay, so what they're essentially saying is that if they're not happy with officiating, then they will be misbehaving.
Of course. So what that guy was talking about was, let's get good referees on the pitches.
What's his name? He has a moniker, a very interesting moniker. I can't remember what it is. Apirigu
Chagapama.
Exactly, that's it. Chagapama, that's it. So, I mean, Dennis, you follow football a lot. You go to the stadium. For the fans, telling us that if officiating doesn't improve, then they would have a reason to react all the time. What have we done to sensitize these fans that that is not the way to address your grievances?
Anaba, you can do so much through the official fan bases for these clubs. But you see, the point is, people always misbehave.
But the teams are not being punished. If the teams were being punished, if points were deducted from the teams, don't you think the fans would change